Rain poured over the empty street like the sky was crying for someone forgotten. Under a flickering streetlight, a thin, bearded man in torn clothes stood shivering beside a small cart filled with scraps of metal and plastic bottles. His eyes were tired but kind. He wasn't begging, just existing. And then, in the blink of an eye, a police cruiser stopped in front of him. A tall officer stepped out, yelling something lost in the rain, and before anyone could understand why, the cop slapped the old man across the face. At that exact moment, a biker at the red light, drenched, his helmet visor fogged with rain, saw everything. He switched off his engine. And what he did next would leave an entire police station speechless. Movie camera, before we dive deeper into this powerful true-to-life story, make sure you hit that like button, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Universe, where real stories remind us that humanity still lives in unexpected places. The biker's name was Ethan Cole, a 32-year-old former Marine who'd spent the last few years working as a mechanic in a small town outside of Denver. He wasn't a man of many words, but his eyes told 1,000 stories of loss, of service, of trying to rebuild a life after war. Every night after closing his shop, Ethan took the long way home, a quiet ride that helped him think, breathe, and feel alive. But this night, the storm had forced most off the road, except him. The homeless man's name was Harold, though no one knew that yet. To most, he was just that guy near Maple Street, the one who talked to stray cats and collected cans to buy stale sandwiches. He had once been a history teacher, a father, a husband, until a car crash took both his family and his reason to live. The police officer, Officer Reed, was known for his temper. Young, proud, and desperate to prove authority, he was the kind of man who mistook power for respect. When he saw Harold standing near a store that had just been vandalized, he didn't ask questions. He assumed. Ethan watched as Reed shouted at Harold, grabbed his collar, and struck him. Harold stumbled, blood mixing with the rain, eyes wide not with anger but shame. Ethan's heartbeat thundered louder than the storm. He had seen violence before, but never this kind. Not cruelty in uniform. He kicked down his stand, threw off his helmet, and walked straight toward them. "Hey!" Ethan's voice cut through the rain like a bullet. Officer Reed turned, annoyed. "Move along, biker. This is police business." Ethan's jaw clenched. "It doesn't look like that to me. It looks like you just hit a man who didn't raise a hand to you." Reed puffed his chest. "He's a vagrant, a suspect. Back off before I—" "Before you what?" Ethan stepped closer, his soaked jacket dripping onto the pavement. "You gonna hit me too?" For a second, even the rain seemed to pause. Harold looked up, confused. No one had ever stood up for him in years. Reed's hand went to his holster, not drawing but threatening. "I said back off." Ethan raised his hand slowly, not in surrender but in defiance. "You're wearing a badge. That means something. It means you protect people like him, not beat them because you can." Reed's nostrils flared. "You don't know what you're talking about." Ethan took another step. "I know exactly what I'm talking about. I served this country so people like him wouldn't have to fear the ones meant to protect them." There was silence, only rain, wind, and 3 broken souls standing under one flickering light. Finally, Reed muttered, "Get lost," and shoved Ethan. Ethan didn't move. He simply said, "Not until you apologize." What neither of them noticed was a teenager recording everything from a nearby bus stop. Her name was Maya Torres, a journalism student who often came downtown to document stories about the homeless. Her phone trembled as she captured every second, the slap, the shove, and Ethan's calm courage. Later that night, that 47-second clip would go viral. But for now, only she knew she was filming something that would shake a whole department. Officer Reed cursed under his breath and finally stormed back to his cruiser, splashing mud across the curb as he sped away. Ethan knelt beside Harold, offering his jacket. "You okay, sir?" Harold nodded weakly, tears blending with the rain. You shouldn't have done that. They'll come for you. Ethan smiled faintly. Let them. I'm not afraid of doing the right thing by morning. The video had hit 2 million views. Justice for Harold trended across platforms. News outlets called Ethan the biker who stood up. The police station buzzed with tension. Internal Affairs launched an investigation. Officer Reed was suspended pending inquiry, and when the chief saw the footage, he muttered just one thing under his breath. Damn, that's the kind of man this city needs. Ethan hadn't sought attention. He actually avoided it. But when reporters came to his small mechanic shop asking why he did it, he simply said, "Because silence is approval, and I've been silent too many times in my life." Those words were replayed everywhere. Meanwhile, Harold, the homeless man everyone had ignored, became a symbol of unseen humanity. When people finally listened, they learned that he had once been a teacher, a man who lost everything in an instant when a drunk driver hit his family's car. After the tragedy, he couldn't afford rent, couldn't keep his job, and the world quietly forgot him. He told a local interviewer, "I stopped believing in kindness until that biker showed up." Ethan visited Harold a few days later at the community shelter that took him in. They shared coffee, and Harold said, "I don't know how to thank you." Ethan smiled. "You already did by not giving up." 2 weeks later, Ethan received an official summons from the police chief himself. He arrived at the station, unsure what to expect. Every eye followed him as he walked through the lobby, some with admiration, some with resentment. Inside the office, Chief Daniels stood by the window, arms crossed. "You made a lot of noise, Mr. Cole." "I didn't mean to, I just—" The chief interrupted. "No, you did what most of us wish we had the guts to do. Sit down." Ethan hesitated, then sat. Daniels continued, "That officer embarrassed this department, but you reminded this town what real courage looks like. The board wants to recognize you formally, a civilian commendation." Ethan blinked. "I don't need medals. Just make sure that man on the street gets treated right." The chief nodded slowly. "He will. In fact, we're starting a new outreach program thanks to you, and if you ever want to wear the badge, the offer stands." Ethan chuckled softly. "I think I'll stick to fixing engines. Machines are easier than people." Daniel smiled. "Maybe, but the world could use a few more broken people who still choose to care." Meanwhile, Maya, the teen who filmed the moment, turned that video into her university documentary project titled One Act of Courage. It won national recognition, and she later used the prize money to start a foundation supporting homeless veterans and families. When asked what inspired her, she said, "A biker who didn't look away." Months later, Harold had cleaned up, found part-time work at a local library, and even started volunteering at shelters. He often told his story to others living on the streets. If one man can stand up for you, maybe the world's not as cold as it seems. Ethan remained quiet about it all. He never took credit, but people often found anonymous donations to homeless centers signed only as "a biker who believes." One afternoon, he visited Harold again. They walked to that same corner where it had all begun. The streetlight still flickered. The rain had returned, gentle, forgiving. Harold looked up and said, "You think he ever realized what he did that night?" The officer. Ethan shrugged. "Maybe, or maybe that moment will haunt him long enough to change him." Harold smiled. "Sometimes pain is the only teacher left." They stood there for a while, two men from different worlds, bound by a moment of compassion. A year passed. One morning, a letter arrived at Ethan's shop. It was from Officer Reed. "Mr. Cole, I don't expect forgiveness. What I did that night was wrong, and I've paid for it in ways I can't explain. But I wanted you to know I've been volunteering at the same shelter Harold stays in. I see the world differently now. You didn't just stop me from hurting someone else. You saved me from becoming someone I never wanted to be. Thank you." Former Officer Reed. Ethan read the letter twice, folded it carefully, and tucked it into his jacket pocket. Then he whispered, "Maybe people do change." When the department learned of Reed's volunteer work, they didn't mock him, they joined him. The same police station that once turned a blind eye to street injustice now ran monthly food drives, community walks, and support programs. Reporters called it the kindness ripple. But Ethan called it something simpler: humanity doing what it should have been doing all along. Movie camera, if this story touched your heart, take a moment right now to like, comment, and share it. And if you believe in real stories that restore faith in humanity, don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Universe, where one story can start a chain reaction of good. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Ethan rode his bike through the same street where it had all started. He slowed down near the old light post, now repaired and shining bright. Harold was sitting nearby, reading a book to a group of kids from the shelter. Ethan stopped for a moment, watching quietly. The laughter of children mixed with the hum of the city, proof that the world hadn't lost its heart, only misplaced it for a while. He revved his engine softly, smiled, and whispered, "Keep the light alive, old man." Harold waved as Ethan rode off into the golden dusk, a lone biker carrying not just a machine, but a message. That kindness isn't weakness. It's the loudest roar you can make in a world gone silent.